Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
My name is Hayden.
Why are we laughing so much, Hayden?
We just started this podcast, and as I was talking, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. It was really gross. And we had to stop.
I really wanted to keep it, but you didn't let me.
We can't keep it.
God.
No way. Maybe in like a year we'll re-release.
Oh my
Re-release. We'll release the bit of me throwing up in my mouth as I started to record
funny.
a pod.
Sorry, get everyone a trigger warning. We're talking about something disgusting immediately.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness
What a
me.
way.
That cracked me up so much. I was ready to do like a proper intro and that.
Yeah.
And I'm just not in a mental state to do that anymore. Because that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
So thank you for listening. We hope to see you next week.
No. We've got a lot to talk about today.
My days.
Oh gosh. Right. I'm going to just go straight with my week. I don't care about your week. I'm just going to go straight in.
Go for it.
Because I just had a moment with a child that really made me laugh. You know, children, there's this whole obsession children have with the age of people.
Yeah.
Right? And either you're almost like a teenager their age if you're like a young teacher, or you're 74.
Yeah,
like,
stick it in your own mouth, that sort of age.
Stop. Some people don't like listening to this kind of thing.
Sorry.
So like, there's no middle age as an adult. You're either just a young person or you're in your 70s.
Extremely old.
So we were doing a text. We started Narnia as our new class text, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And one of the words we were looking at was old-fashioned. And a few of them didn't quite know what it meant. Others had worked it out. Others had heard it before. Right. And one child said, it's like olden days, like something from the past. And I was like, yeah, you were making links here. That's awesome. Old-fashioned, something that used to be the way of doing something.
Yeah.
And one of the children then said to me, my mum was born in the olden days.
Oh God, here we go.
Like, yeah, when you're a kid, anything before you and you were born was basically World War II. Like, there's no in between.
Yeah.
It just really made me laugh what she said after, because I said, thinking, okay, so how old is your mum?
Yeah,
is what I asked her, because I thought, I bet your mum's like 37.
Yeah,
like
not even
30s.
far from us.
Yeah, literally, like around our age. And so I said, okay, well, how old are you, mum? Thinking I'll continue, but like, well, no, actually, she's not really older days. I know it's funny and it's a laugh.
Yeah.
And her reply was just completely ruined this facade her mum had tried to build up to other people. She just said, well, I'm supposed to say 29.
You're not supposed to say I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, exactly.
That bit ruins it. That bit, now we all know she's not 29. You ruined it.
And that she's told you to say 29.
Because she's actually 30. And it's just, no one wants to say 30, okay? Yeah, that's it. Kids just have no concept of age, do they?
No.
Because sometimes they joke and they're like, how old am I? And they're like, you're 100. And I'm like, okay, I know you're being silly. Yeah. But sometimes there's those genuine moments where I've said my age before, and I did, funny enough, the other day, I literally said my age, and one of them went, oh, God, I didn't realise you were younger than my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, how old's your dad? 40. I was like, what do you mean you thought I was over 40? Like, come on, you've had 8 years.
Know. You're just an adult. Yeah. I think in my head, kids have just 3 stages of adulthood. And what the first stage of adulthood is when you're clearly just like a teenager, right? You're very young, you're basically a kid. The next stage is just my parents and my teachers, and that's just it. And then the last stage is old person. Yeah. That's it. So that middle one is huge. That middle one genuinely goes from like 25 up to like 60. Yeah. You're just in that bracket.
And it's not until you live in it that you start to realize, that you do look kind of different at different phases. Though.
Oh, yeah.
Like right at the moment, I'm finally starting to like look at like 20-year-olds and be like, oh, you look like babies to me now. Whereas mid-20s, I looked at them, I was like, I think I look like that, right? I think I look like that. We look the same. But now I look at them, I'm like, say university student, I'm like,
they're a child.
I'm like, do I teach you in year 6 or not? Because I can't really tell.
You're doing what the kids do with adults, with children. You're like, I don't know. You're all just young people.
But it makes so much sense, because when I was younger, I'd always when I was like 17.
Yeah.
So really old people would honestly have no concept if I was like they thought I was somewhere between 12 and 20. They would just have no idea like what actual age I was, because I guess it's just so far removed, isn't it?
Well, I was at my friend's 70th the other day, and not my friend.
You have a friend that's 70?
My friend's dad's 70th. We play golf with him and stuff sometimes. He's my friend as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's being friends with someone?
I was at my friend's 70th.
Yeah,
I was at my friend's dad, who's also my friend. He's 70th, and so we went out for a night out. We had this like function room hired, and it was in the middle of a town, and we left at the end, and we're walking past the clubs, and we're seeing people go into clubs, and I honestly was like, that's a child. They're children. That's a group of lads there who are 15, and they're obviously like 19, 20. They're just going out, and I was like, God, when I was them, I didn't. I think other people would be looking at me with this kind of like view of that's a child, but clearly I was.
Well, fortunately, no one did with you because you looked about 28 from about 14. So you are an anomaly to this. I, however, did look about 12 at 18, but I thought to myself, "Oh, I'm an adult now. I clearly, whose question? What do you want to see my ID for? Clearly, I'm 18. Look at me.
No, you're like a child.
You're like
we both went through big changes in how we looked, didn't we? Like almost overnight. I grew a beard, and it was like, you look older immediately. You lost your hair, you look older immediately.
Yeah,
jumped up.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I'm not sure which one's better. I'll think about that. Yeah. But anyway,
is it? Sorry, very quickly. As I walked in today, and you were playing a new game, and you'd created an avatar. Maybe you think beard's better because look at your avatar.
I know.
It was basically, it looked like what you were like, the ultimate version of me. It was, no, I was going to say, it was a bald man. So I was like, okay, that's Hayden trying to be himself with the most majestic beard you've ever seen. Little bit of jealousy, maybe, I don't know. And like the most ripped person ever, walking around with their top off, like, I've built a house out of wood.
So obviously that bit's true. Yeah. So that bit, obviously the ripped bit is true. Obviously, completely me. But the beard bit, yeah, I would like to grow a beard. I wish I could grow a beard. In all honesty.
Oh gosh,
I wish I could.
Right. I've from what you told me earlier, you're really annoyed at something.
Yeah. My whole week's recap here was just going to be something that happened, or something I saw on Facebook. I got hooked in because I'm a keyboard warrior. You know what I'm like, but I try to not be as bad these days. Anyway, someone put a post. A fairly new teacher, clearly in one of these groups, put something along the lines of, "I'm taking on maths lead
well done.
at my school," which is really cool, really exciting. I remember doing that. I loved the first year I took on maths lead.
Just the first year?
Just the first year. After that, I was like, oh, that wasn't worth it. No, I did enjoy it. And they said, so I just want to clarify something because I'm not really too sure if I'm being wrong or something, but I'm going to get paid a TLR, which sounds really cool. But they've put me on a TLR 3, and I'm reading right here on this extremely clear document. I've added that bit in.
Yeah, from the government.
Yeah, from the government. That TLR 3s are for like temporary positions and they're the lowest paid one. Just check him. Like, am I supposed to be on a TLR 2 for this permanent maths lead role that's always existed in this school for decades?
Yes, you are, mate.
And never not existed.
Correct. Absolutely.
And put the post down, and that's what I thought. Yeah. I was like, we talked about this in the pod. I was like, getting ready, get my hands warmed up to type. Absolutely right. Yeah, you should be challenging that. But I actually ended up typing something along the lines of, yeah, it is wrong. It's also one of those weird ones where unanimously across schools, for some reason, we've all accepted that TLR 3s are given, and it's actually annoyingly normal to be given a TLR 3 for a maths lead. Yeah. Then I read some of the other comments. And I was surprised to see that quite a few people were saying, oh, yeah, I challenged this at my school, and now we get paid TLR2s.
Really?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, more than one person put that, which really made me... I think I might have even deleted my comment because I felt embarrassed the fact that I'd said, no, it's totally normal for schools to do TLR3s, and then the next two comments are people saying, no, I've got a TLR2 now. For being a maths lead.
Doesn't that go to show that bringing something up and actually challenging it sometimes does work? Yeah, it's not just being awkward.
They were both sort of basically saying, yeah, I brought this up and this is why I'm on TLR2. Wow. Very next comment, no, I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid for this.
You should be lucky you get anything.
Yeah, next comment was that. Basically saying, literally like patronizing, like, why are you questioning whether you're getting money? Like, why are you questioning it? You're getting paid. Shut up, basically.
Honest to God.
And it basically went from the whole range of everyone being like, I get paid absolutely nothing, that's fine.
Yeah.
To,
you shouldn't moan about it.
I get paid nothing, but we should do. To just be happy you're getting paid something. To, yeah, that's wrong. I get paid a TLR2 at my school. Yeah. And I just, oh my God, I saved it for the pod because I wanted to rant with you and be like, I don't understand how we can have a public service job. It's the same job, and there's tens of thousands of us across the country doing the same job, the same pay scales, unless you're in an academy and they're just rinsing you because the CEO needs to take 300 grand a year. That's a different conversation. We're all doing the same job. How can it be? How can it be that someone 500 meters down the road in a different school is doing the exact same role as me, which we've all established across the government? It's like, yes, we need maths leads in all schools, but they don't get paid. I get paid a bit and they get paid more. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make sense because it's the same role.
Yeah, it's insane. I absolutely agree. And the academy thing does just muddy the waters even further because there'll be other people underneath saying, oh yeah, that is true, but I guess my academy doesn't have to follow it because they can do whatever they want because they're just basically a private business in disguise as a school that can be funded by the government and can do what they want with all the cash. It's insane. So we already have that dichotomy of local authority schools having to follow this, that don't.
Yeah.
Local authority schools are having to follow this guidance that do, and academy trusts who can just do whatever they want anyway. Yeah. So that's where I'm really behind that. There's a current push from the government that they're going to make every single school have to follow all of these STPCDs and these documents and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of academies are pushing back saying, oh, no, that's bad because I think I would quite like having control because it can help my staff. No, 90% of the ways that academies apply their freedom to do what they want with money is to take money away from teachers.
Yeah, of course it is.
Lower.
Why else would you argue?
Yeah, have you ever seen an academy with a really good maternity scheme which matches that in the private sector that we get? No, of course you're not. No, because they're not going to put more money into it, are they? They're going to lower your pay salary. Lower your pay grades. We worked in a school that was an academy that literally did this systematically across the board in a way that was so underhanded. It was crazy, and you only find out through digging. So essentially, if you think about the pay scales, on the main pay scale it goes up to M6.
Yep.
So M1 up to M6, 6 jumps. And if you're in a local authority school, you'll just go up a jump each year. Quite straightforward. Yep. You can apply to go through UPS whenever you want. You might get accepted, you might get not, whatever. But what this academy chain did, and we worked in this school, was they created their own pay scale, which is completely allowed. Yep. Not illegal. Nothing they did was illegal at all. I just thought it was horrible.
Yep.
So you'd make a new scale, and you'd go M1, M2, but you'd put your own little jump in between. So now instead of there being 6 jumps up, there was actually, I think, 11.
It was at 11.
Yeah, because there was 1 between each jump. So 5 extra were put in. And again, they were like, okay, so every year you go up two jumps on the scale, which is basically 1 jump. Anyone who's already worked out is probably shouting at me saying, yeah, okay, right. So the baseline was if you meet your performance appraisal, because it's all linked to performance, you jump up 2, which is just what everyone should get anyway.
Yeah.
But they reserved the right to jump you up 1. And here's where they systematically did this to new teachers. We were NQTs, we joined, and we were told unequivocally, every single NQT, no matter their performance, so no longer performance related, no matter what they did, they go at 1 point in the scale.
Yeah.
So every single NQT in this school, which was an academy trust, and this was completely allowed, went up, instead of 1 scale up to the next, what would traditionally M2, went up to the new next jump, which was halfway. So that year you were earning 1 to 1.5 grand less than you should have done. But here's the kicker. You might think, oh, that's annoying for a year.
Yeah.
You've lost $1,000.
But then the next year you can go up 2 points and it's back to normal.
No, because then you're on 1.5.
Yeah.
So so let's say you start on 1.
Yeah.
Year 2, you're on 1.5.
Yeah.
Year 3, I can go up 2 now, can't I? Yeah, you're going to 2.5. You should be on 3.
Yeah.
Every single year, you're half a pay scale less than what you should be on. So every single year of your career, of every teacher in the school, no matter where they are, they're saving £1,000 to £2,000.
Yeah.
And it was just an example of how, Academy Trust, we've got the freedom to do what we want with the money. We can do what we want with TLRs. It's all down to us. Isn't that great? Because we can really give our staff the money they deserve. 95% of the time, it's going the other way. It's not happening, which is why all schools should have to follow these guidance.
Yeah. That was actually the first time that I'm just thinking, reminiscing back to that time because we both worked there. That was the first time I found a little bit of confidence, and I actually did challenge it. It was probably the only time in that I'd finished my newly qualified teaching year, and I found out this whole pay thing, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I was quite naive at the time, so I didn't really know. I was like, pretty sure that's not supposed to happen, and I did challenge it to the head teacher, and just got literally. I remember I actually can imagine being in there and her just saying to me, "No, that's just what we do here." Just shutting me down, and obviously I didn't have any more. That was my confidence done. I spent it. I was like, okay.
Going in was your confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And I walked out thinking, just being a bit annoyed, but it sowed that seed. And what those leaders need to understand is it sowed the seed for me to have resentment. I left that school a couple of years later and I resented every single thing about it. And do you know what? Those little things, they did build up and they grew inside me and it annoyed me. So these leaders think they can get away with it and then squash it and it's done and they'll forget about it. No, people don't forget about these things.
Well, we're 10 years in now.
And talking about it on a podcast.
I still think about it because I just think it's an instinctively horrible thing to do because someone would have to sit there and make that decision.
Yeah.
That was like an active decision where we're like, right, we'll make these pay grades, we'll invent these rules where we can save tens of thousands of pounds out of the pockets of our teachers, every single one of them over their career at the school.
Yeah.
That decision was made actively, and that was maybe made because we've just saved in our school. We've just saved. Let's just say it's £1,000 every teacher. We've just saved 30 grand.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's my pay rise next year.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. You're a CEO. All brilliant.
You just made up this role for one of your mates in the top, which is funded by screwing over your staff.
Yeah.
Never mind the way teaching assistants were treated.
I know, it's even worse with them. Crikey.
Absolutely. So when you look at it and you're thinking, aren't these cost-cutting measures good that schools can have this to survive? Not really when they're spending it on middle management that do nothing and go around and make teachers feel even worse.
Yeah.
And the TLR thing, going full circle back to what you just said, it's a conversation which I think is really powerful, because in a local authority school, you've got it written on paper where really it's quite hard to argue that.
Yeah.
And some schools still will. But
yeah.
it's almost irrelevant then when you go to an academy, because they're just like, well, yeah, just make up your own rules.
Yeah, we don't even pay TLRs here at all. What are you talking about? What's a TLR?
Yeah, honestly.
Okay.
They don't exist. Yeah. Everyone just leads everything, please.
So yeah, you just got to complain. You just got to complain to these schools.
You should complain,
I shouldn't
though.
be here.
You should complain though in general. Even if you're in an academy, I would go to them and say, this isn't really enough.
Yeah.
And then don't do it. Say no.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to do it then. It's not worth it.
That's the problem, because people often go, oh, okay, and then do it anyway. No. No. Let's make a fork in the road. Do it and get paid for it, or don't do it. Simple as that.
So imagine saying to them, what will you do if I refuse this role?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be, we'll fire you.
Yeah. Of course
it's like, okay, good luck. What are you going to say to that? Like, you might not want to say that, because the hypotheticals are great.
Yeah,
in real life, it's like, okay,
you got a mortgage to pay.
My relationship with this teacher, this head teacher, is maybe important to me as well. So maybe I will. Give,
or even if you don't like them, you want to stay in your job.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you don't want to cause too many problems. I don't know. There's lots of things to consider, but we should definitely at least have that line of thought in our head of, I could challenge this though.
Absolutely.
I could complain about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One last thing before we play the jingle and crack on. We did receive a bit of a complaint.
We got a complaint.
I know, right?
We're not CEOs of a multi-academy trust, are we, Dylan?
Well, we're actually fleecing off the customers. We've changed their pay scale. We're from not mentioned in a while, Mr. Need Financial Planning. My good friend, Mr. Need Financial Planning, got in touch with us. Said he's just catching up. I think he was a couple podcasts behind, and he mentioned a couple of podcasts ago we had to put a beep in, because we got a bit overexcited, and we said and I said so that might have needed to be beeped, and he just got in touch to say, brilliant, whatever, that's fine, I'm glad you beeped it, but God, I was listening to it in the car, and it was really loud. And so I think you said you were listening to the car too. It was quite loud.
Yeah, the beats were quite loud. Okay.
So just one thing to say, to be honest with you, Mr. Need Financial Planning, I don't really give a So we're going to get on to our top tips for the summer term later, but there's one thing I wanted to talk about first, and it was from a TikTok video that I posted. Okay. So anyone who's following us on TikTok at Teach, Seek, Repeat Podcast, or on Instagram will see reels that we put out constantly. Often they're from recent episodes, obviously to try and show what we're talking about, but every now and then I'll post something from an old episode. And I noticed, again, on TikTok and Instagram, I still see quite a lot of teachers, educators, people working in a school posting content online. Yeah. Including us. Okay. We post content online all the time.
All the time.
But I have an issue when I see content posted online that's clearly been recorded during a lesson.
Right. Okay. Like with kids in it, or kids' voices, or
whatever. Yeah, whatever it might be. I think there are still levels inside of that.
Okay.
With actual kids in the video is insane. And I just can't think of a reason ever to do that. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the idea of, okay, kids' voices in the background. Okay. But the video's on the teacher. But we'll get into why I still think that's all very strange. I did a reel about this, and it got a lot of views, a lot of traction, a lot of likes, and a lot of agreement. Like 95 to 98% of people were saying, yes, this is insane. We should never be filming content for our own personal use on our own personal TikTok accounts during lesson times whilst children are in school. That seemed like the absolute, that should be it.
What was the, I'm just curious because I haven't read the comments. So what was the main reason for that? Is it the obvious one? Is it simply because kids safeguarding?
Safeguarding.
Is that it?
Simple as that. There were a few that cropped up a lot. Okay. So number one would be, working in a school, if you're a teacher, you will know how important it is for a lot of children to not remotely be able to be identified for their own safety. Yeah, the ultimate safeguarding version of children in care, perhaps, where adults cannot know where these children are. And if there's any way of working it out whatsoever, they'll find a way of working it out.
Do you think even like voices?
This is what that can still fall into it, because at the end of the day, if you know your child's voice and you hear it, okay, and you then figure out, okay, that's this person who's a social media influencer online who I know of. Yeah. I can very easily work out where they work. I know what school that kid's in now. I know what area they're in. That can be a huge safeguarding. Okay, that can be a huge safeguarding issue. Yeah. The other one was, teachers having their phones out in lesson time. Sure. Teachers having their personal phone out and setting it up like on a tripod with like a light around it, a ring light, and then setting all that up and then doing a bit of the lesson. Yeah. Okay. The point was there was never ever should your personal phone be out in the classroom. Yeah. Never mind recording and taking photos and stuff like that on your personal phone. Yeah. So a lot of this was predicated on, and to be fair, the reel was too, on this idea of consent. and this idea of if it's okay or not.
Well, some schools just think about the phone thing. Some like policies are really different across schools. Some schools genuinely have like the strictest phone policies. I've seen some people online saying like we have to put our phones in like a locker on the way in, genuinely as adults. And other schools, I know of these schools because I know people that work in them where they're like, when they go on school trips and stuff, they're allowed to take pictures on their phone. They just have to prove they've deleted it at the end. They can upload them, like they can take pictures for the school website or whatever on their personal phones. And then they've just got to delete them at the end and they can upload them, which I think that's pushing the line too much personally.
Absolutely.
But like, do you think then that these things are objectively wrong, or is it just your opinion that they're wrong? Because some schools probably do have a policy where that person would actually be allowed to get out their phone.
Well, this was the huge thing. This was all about consent. This was the huge part of the video. The video was very clearly talking about if we're not finding any consent, this is insane. So I think nearly every single person can agree that without any form of consent, doing this is wrong. It's not an opinion. It is wrong.
Absolutely.
Okay, you cannot give consent for the children to be posted on social media at all, right? So now we're going into the murkier area of with consent or not. Because again, a lot of people are saying, well, these people obviously have consent from the parents, right? And I was like, yeah, some do, but some don't, and that's my issue. Some just think it's okay because they see it online. So my point here is, even when there is consent from parents for children to say, I consent to this teacher filming during lesson time. I consent to this teacher using their own personal phone during lesson time. I consent to it being uploaded to their own personal TikTok. Let's say you get all of that consent. Let's say all of that consent is there from parents. And then the school even like do your classes based on the fact that, well, that we know they're going to this guy's class. This person's an influencer that does a lot of stuff online. It's beneficial to us and him. We let him do it.
It's all the official channels
it's all
are
fine.
saying it's okay.
Right. Even in that case, I personally, and I'm not saying that this like should be the law because I don't know if there's consent. I'm sure that's fine. I still don't think that should happen.
Why?
I think that it's just a safeguarding issue. Why do we have cards that are security cards to get into school? Why do we have that?
Well, just so no one else can get in that shouldn't be allowed.
Okay. Are we saying that everyone who could possibly come into a school is going to do something illegal?
No, it's
right?
just a
exactly. So this person might get lots of consent, and there's a 99% chance that a teacher will absolutely do nothing with those whatsoever. But there's a chance that someone will have access to that phone, even if it's not that teacher, and have access to those files.
The data could be like, do you think about GDPR? Actually, we've not really talked about that, but obviously GDPR came in a few years ago and was like really hot.
And that's all about consent though as well.
But data protection. If you think about like you just saying about the phone there. How common is it that your personal phone will be in the hands of someone else? Probably not very often with you because you hate people touching your phone. But most people, like, they might give it to their partner or someone in their family, or a friend might just, oh, can I borrow your phone and make a phone call?
Lauren's always got my phone taking pictures of Rory. Constantly.
So there is a data protection thing there. I've not thought about until right now. Where it's like, even if you've got all the consent, someone else could still get the, like, let's say you've got consent, but you have to blur out the faces. Okay, well, the raw video won't have blurred out faces, will it? You've got to edit that in. And if your phone's got that footage on it and maybe it gets uploaded to the cloud or whatever, there is just a data protection thing there. I think that's probably
completely
a big enough risk.
Completely. But even still, I just think with all the consent and stuff, if I was the lead of a school and safeguarding, as we've always said, is a top priority, I just think I would err away from that. Even giving that as an option. I would just err away.
Well, what's
from
the benefit to the school?
Well, the benefit to the school can be, loads of stuff. You can get lots of, if the school, lots of schools have their own TikToks. And the school can get a bit of, local notoriety as, that's a cool, fun school, and you can get bums on seats because there's so much competition at the minute to get bums on seats and stuff like that. But the overall point I'm trying to make here is that I just don't think it's something we should do. I personally think it's a lot of the time it is just for clout. It's just for clout and for building a personal brand and for looking like a cool teacher and getting accolades online. So my 2 points to this is, number one, nearly everything I've seen that's involved in a classroom could just be a video after when the kids have gone home. So for example, I've seen stuff before where someone's set up their camera, put them on themselves, and they're doing a callback. Or something. So the teacher will go, tikka masala, and the kids will go, Sue, and like it's just like it's like
I hope not.
No, but my point here is that's just for clout, because if you actually only cared about the pedagogy, which is what people come back to, like, I'm just sharing cool ideas with the kids. Cool, set up a video after the kids have gone and explain that. But that's not what you want to do, because what you want to do is have the clout of the kids in the background saying it and seeing it in action, because you want that to be on your video, because it'll get more engagement, it'll get more clicks, it'll get more likes. So it's often disingenuous when someone says, oh, I'm just trying to share my pedagogical knowledge. Loads of accounts share pedagogical knowledge without doing that. I've seen there's an account called Mr. Minchin who pops up on my Instagram every now and then.
Yep.
He has unbelievable ideas, but he'll just be sat in an empty classroom saying, hey guys, I tried this out today. This was a thing I did, and this was really good for coordinates. And then the next thing is I'm setting up this outdoor adventure thing for my children to have some free play. That's how you can share pedagogical knowledge without setting up a phone.
In it.
Exactly.
The kids aren't in it. He's not doing it like we're aware enough to be able to just like apply it to the classroom without seeing the kids doing it, right?
So my point being, when you've chosen to have the kids in it, there's another thing in play. And I don't think you can just say, oh, it's pedagogical.
Yeah.
It's not. Because again, half the time, this is my other point, is a lot of the time with these people, and again, I didn't like how it became name calling in the comments because I genuinely was not thinking of an individual whatsoever. But a lot of names came up in the comments and I just ignored them because I'm not out to get anyone individually. I'm talking about a point of view I have. The other thing is that, what we just mentioned about the kids being there and it's for clout and stuff. A lot of the time, what they're actually sharing isn't even that groundbreakingly amazing. So, doing a callback.
Yeah, we've all heard callbacks.
Well, we know what. Okay, and again, if you're sharing it with parents, just with kids and stuff, or you're teaching them how to do it, you don't need to film that. Yeah. Because callbacks are an established part of our whole teaching. Like, do you name a teacher who doesn't know what a callback is?
Yeah.
And even if you are there to learn from this influencer, like I said, do it after school then. But you're doing that. It's not groundbreaking. It's and you'll get people again like, oh, aren't you the best teacher in the world because you've engaged them through doing a funny callback.
Yeah.
People do that in their sleep.
Yeah,
I've seen amazing teachers all the time. Being an amazing teacher, do you know what usually means is you're not thinking about your phone during the lesson. You're just doing some amazing teaching. You're not thinking, God, how can I need to show the world that I do callbacks because isn't that great? Okay.
Do it after then.
Yeah.
I think you made a really, really good point. I think that the clearest, distinguished point that you've given here is there should be a flow diagram in your head. I want to make this content. Okay, do you know what? Some people do like making content. We like making content.
Completely.
Probably more than other people like making content.
We make so much content.
Okay, can I make this content after school? If the answer is yes, and it doesn't detriment the content you're thinking of making there, and you don't choose to do that, then you've made the wrong choice. I think I quite like that line of thinking because I've always been a bit wishy-washy in this before. I felt like you've always had a really, really, really clear point of view, and I've always been maybe I just haven't thought about it enough. Like you're encouraging me to think about it more now, actually. And I've always been a bit like, my previous opinion was, if there's consent, okay, whatever, get on with it, and I've left my thought train there. But I do agree. I think if you're doing it for clout, and it doesn't show anything great. Like you could just do it after school, then you should absolutely do that for sure. Okay, well, can I challenge you with another type of content? Because there's something I don't know who these people are because I don't really watch this stuff.
To be honest with you, but just for context quickly, you and I, we don't really spend much time on social media.
I don't.
Which is funny because we have podcasts and we post on social media a lot. We don't really consume much. So I'm just saying, I know you don't.
But around COVID time, and this might not even happen anymore. I might be being really old-fashioned here with my content. But around COVID time, I remember there was a bit of a rise in content being filmed at school. Yeah. Like maybe on those days where there's only a few kids in or whatever. Maybe it was a bit more relaxed. I don't know. But I remember there's been quite a few creators that have made I think it's all secondary school based, I think, but like dancing in the classroom. People have done dances and stuff.
What,
with
themselves?
with kids. Like with kids, dances, like kind of like the callback thing, but like they've done something and the kids are in it. Like they might be blurred or they might not be like fully in shot or something like that. Right. But I just remember seeing loads of videos of like teachers with kids in the video. Yeah. I remember thinking at the time, well, that's quite sweet. They've obviously got consent. And my first thought was, they've done that because it's engaged that child. Maybe that child, I don't know, maybe it's like a special need for that child or a behavioural need or something. Yeah. And for them, it was like, this is epic. For them, they were like, I can't wait to see my video on TikTok. I can't wait to see my video on Instagram. And I've got consent from my mum. I was going to do it anyway at home, but now I'm doing it in a safe space with my teacher at lunchtime. What's your views on that?
I think what you summed up there is probably the most compelling retort you could have to what I'm saying, which is based in the grounds of this consent from the parents. Yeah. It's based in the grounds that the children actively want to do it. I just think that you should not do it. It's
so
like,
that doesn't push you back enough.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, that's okay.
So it pushes me back enough in terms of if a child has consent from their parent to go onto TikTok below the age they should be on TikTok. Yeah. Who are we to go into someone's private home and say, no, you shouldn't be doing that, right? But we are a school. We do have a duty of care.
Yeah.
And even with consent and stuff, great. If a parent came in and consented to their children drinking bleach at lunchtime, we wouldn't just go, well, the parents consented, so we're going to have the bleach out. Of course we wouldn't.
So true.
Of course we wouldn't.
So true.
The blanket fact of that a parent has consented to something doesn't mean that a school should automatically do it.
They'd encourage it.
Right. So what I'm saying is that's great. A parent can give as much consent as they want. But I'm a school and I'm going to have certain lines and boundaries because I understand the dangers of online. I understand the algorithm is horrendous. The fact that anything I do as an institution or my staff do as an institution that glamorizes that in terms of the children seeing themselves on it is insane to me. Yeah. So this is where the line I draw with what we do. We do a lot of us chatting like this. This might turn into a reel itself. This might find itself on the TikTok algorithm right now.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very different to me to putting a child into that situation, which we know as a school, and we'll do parents' evening talks about safety online. How on earth can I stand there as a head and deliver that, or as a teacher, whilst I'm simultaneously saying, well, the parents said it can go on TikTok, then it's all good, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, of course.
It's just not, the idea of consent alone is enough to allow something doesn't wash with me. So when someone says, well, I've got the consent from the parents, it's fine, isn't it? I still think no.
Yeah.
That's something for me, for all of the reasons I've outlined, no.
Like a wider ethical consideration, isn't there? That's not about just simply the parent has given me consent, therefore I can now do it. It's a wider ethical debate. I think it's a really, really interesting point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting because, again, I want to clarify to people right now, because a lot of people push back and say, well, teachers aren't paid enough. They're getting some money from this. I agree, teachers aren't paid enough. We can still have a disagreement here. And also, I'm not saying children shouldn't be in anything ever. Okay, I've seen lovely website pictures of children doing their learning on the website. It's so nice. I think that's okay. We're not glamorizing someone being famous and a content creator online, younger, and getting them onto an algorithm. That's a nice picture of a thing. I've watched Netflix shows where there's child actors who are doing very adult themes. That gives consent. That's an art form. That's a different conversation.
Like adolescence recently.
Exactly that. That was a young man. And I don't know how old he was, but okay, imagine he could have been young enough to have not been on TikTok. Yeah. And he's doing a video about how he's on Instagram. He's doing a television show about how he's on Instagram. There's emojis, there's murder. And so I'm not, don't think I'm saying, I'm going over the top. I don't think I'm going over the top here with safeguarding in terms of like, no, not ever. We should protect the children at all times. Blah, blah, blah. There are obviously going to be times. I just think in this situation, I wouldn't open that can of worms. Yeah,
it sounds like the wider problem there is like it's specifically to do with social media as well, isn't it? It's about that. It's the avenue in which this media is being shared, isn't it? Like you said, a school website. It's not promoting any like underage use of social media that we shouldn't be doing that we know is rotting children's brains anyway. Yeah. It's a website.
And even like when I've seen like schools having social media, they might have an Instagram account. Yeah, and there's a picture of like the team playing football. Yeah. That's very different again. Yeah. We're talking about different stuff here. When we're doing online trends that boost the algorithm
for kids,
for children, I just think it's just a step too far. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying no school should ever have an Instagram account anymore. Yeah. No, of course they should. And that's fine. And there's consent there. I just think consent alone doesn't convince me to do something. I have to look at the wider picture and decide for myself.
Case by case almost with the schools, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because what if, I'm going to challenge you one last time here because I'm really into this. And now you've mentioned school Instagram accounts. It's like, it's reopened my mind to blurred lines. Yeah. All right. School Instagram account, they've got all the consent, blah, 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 done it all properly. And then they start doing on their school Instagram account, similar kind of content. So like more virally type content. Yeah. Things where it's like, these are trends and we do it because we know the kids will enjoy it. Yeah. We know the kids will like, this is like a treat for them. Yeah. If they've done well this week, they get to be in our next Instagram reel. We do one a week. What's your opinion then on school TikTok or school Instagram accounts going further than just, okay, it's a picture of other kids doing football on a Sunday, no faces on. Right. What you might put in a newspaper on a website, and it goes a bit more down the lines of we're doing this because it's fun and it's social media and it might go viral. And
I wouldn't do it. No, I would not do that. That would be the distinction, I think. And again, I'm saying push me back. Like I might move here because I'm saying there's certain things where I get consent, like giving medical assistance if someone's poorly on a school trip. We need consent to do that, right? Yeah. And if I get consent to do that, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. If the child needs it, right? If I get consent to have bleach as an option to drink at lunchtime, I'm not going to do it.
Still not going to do it.
So there's a line somewhere. And this is tricky, and this is where we can have a discussion. I'm just trying to explain where my line is, and it's somewhere between that.
Do you think it's the purpose? Maybe.
I think it's the purpose.
It's the purpose. Like a picture of a school team, it is for the parents. Yeah, it is for the parents. It's to say these are what your kids achieved. Well done. The kids can look at it as well if they want to see their achievement, but really it's to show off an achievement.
Exactly.
If a school Instagram account did a thing like a
viral
dance.
Sound.
There's tons of dances and sounds, isn't there? Yeah. They did one of those.
Come on, kids, get in.
That's not really for the parents.
So I'm going to try and clarify here.
Okay.
If only the staff did that viral trend and it was after school, completely fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
this is what I'm saying.
Sure.
So I'm not against schools doing this or having a social media presence or their teachers being online.
But the kids don't need to be in
the
it.
children don't need to be there in that context.
Yeah. And one final point, because my last thing that I thought of is something
You've had 4 last
earlier. No, it's because this is a good conversation. I'm really I've never really thought this deeply about this before. But okay, you could even go down the avenue of you could still make these videos and things in school with children if it was on a school iPad and it didn't go any further than the school.
Sure.
Like internal.
Exactly.
It's fun. You know how we do like green screen videos as kids? They do like a news report. That's a classic thing. You could still make these videos.
Yes.
But it's on a school iPad.
Precisely.
It's not on your personal phone and it's not for your personal TikTok.
That's another really good distinction to make, because I think it really clarifies the issue here. The issue is the algorithm and the viral trend seeking stuff.
Yeah.
That's the issue. If it's on an iPad, I would do that in a blink of an eye. I think that'd be so engaging for the kids and so fun. It's on a school iPad. We're going to change the green screen backgrounds. You're going to do a little dance.
Yeah.
Great.
That's your treat.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And even if it's just to do with learning like literacy of online and how things work in terms of like editing software on like an app and stuff like that. I think all of that's fine. I really do. I think that really nicely draws the line of just, I hope it's clear to people listening where I stand on this. Yeah. And again, I hope that if someone's listening to this and they think, well, I'm that person who has consent and I do this kind of thing. I'm not saying you're a good or a bad teacher. My point here is exactly the opposite. I don't think it remotely defines what you're like as a teacher. Sure. Whether you post these things. No, I don't think so either. Like it could define where you are morally or ethically. It will. You might just be on a different scale to me. I think you're on a different scale to me still. Yeah. But what I would like to take away from this is when people think automatically those influencers are the best teachers in the world and therefore everyone else, that does not work like that. I want general public to understand it does not work like that. Nearly every teacher, I've very, very, very rarely seen something posted by these people which I've not known of or seen before. So please don't think that, wow, these people are on the pedestal. And honestly, when people do that and you see people in high positions like huge brands and even the government, etc., almost rewarding it, I do feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Yeah. It's because, do you know why? Do you know why brands do it? It's because they're seeing that this is a commercialized thing. It's clout. It's nothing. It's clout. It's nothing to do with the kids. They're just like, oh, loads of people comment on this. I'll comment on this as Heinz beans. And maybe people will comment on our thing, go to our thing, because they just care about business. It shows, if anything, this is a business thing, not actually a thing for the kids. Exactly. Anyway, that was a good, I enjoyed that conversation. I'm glad we clarified it more. I feel like my line is a bit more set now, because I didn't really have a line before. I hadn't thought about it enough. I don't think I've ever changed my mind. So no, I'm exactly it's where impossible. I was. You're extremely arrogant. Hey, come on. No, I'm joking. I've changed my mind a lot. I feel like we came to a proper place there together by thinking about different things. Same. That was lovely. Should we do what we're actually here to do? Oh, I guess so. Tips for summer term. Let's play the jingle. Right, we've made it. It's summer term. So here are a bunch of tips that we've put together that we think will help you get through it as a busy, overworked teacher. I've got the first one, if you don't mind, Hayden. Go on, of course you have. Come straight in again. Yeah, again. Okay, first one is you have until May the 31st to resign. We have not planned. Hang on. This is not tip number one. It's important tip. Tip number one. Genuinely, I'm just going to say this right now. Okay. May the 31st is genuinely the deadline if you wanted to hand your notice in. And it's important. No, it's important because a lot of people out there who will be toying with it. It is important. It's just funny that you came in with a tip. That's not a tip. It's not a tip, is it? How can I get through this last term? No, you're quitting at the end. That'll get you through it. This is a notification. This is not a tip. That's really funny. Can I go? Okay, to clarify, that's not tip number one. Yeah, I'm going to come in with a real tip number one. Tip number one. Tip number one. Get looking for new schools. Go and look. But seriously, if you're in a toxic school, I'm going to make this point because I think it's important. Because a lot of people listen and they are in a school where they listen to everything we say and they're like, I just can't do this. You know, we said before, like, we'll just try and push back, know your rights and stuff. Still be in a school which are just like, no, get out of that school. Go and try a different school. Go and try something new. So go and get looking. Go on your whatever website is relevant to where you live. We've got Kent Teach in ours because it's Kent, where all of the applications are done, and you can go and have an interview somewhere else. It's all allowed. Just do it. Get doing. Until when? When can I do that until? And that is May the 31st because it's 3 months. Well, your funny thing turned into a kind of a real tip. I'll give you that. I'll give it a half tip. It's a half tip. That's a half. So the second half of tip number one. Yep. The second half, tip number 0.5 is actually a real one. It's about prioritizing.
in the summer term, prioritize. You need to prioritize more than ever, more than
Hayden,
any point in the year.
You've told me to prioritize all the time. Why is it particularly important now?
Look, so much more happens at this point in the year. Yes, we should always prioritize. Maybe that was a bit patronizing of me. Of course, we should prioritize in general. But at this point of the year, you can expect even more things piled on top.
Right.
Things like reports. If you're in year 6, you might have a school play, end of year activities, parent evenings, whatever you've got, like all these things that just kind of like happen at the end of the year at once, or at least within a term. You need to prioritize, because what you can't just do is be like, okay, I'll just do all those things on top of my workload that already goes over my hours.
Right.
You can't just do that. You have to look at things and be like, okay, well, in this term, even though all year I've been quite happy doing this job and this job and this job, I'm not going to do that one anymore because I need to make some room for this parent consultation, that meeting that I've got to write all these notes for, and I've got to start doing my report. So I'm going to need to drop this task as well. That is okay. We are professionals. If you go into any private sector ever, they will have, timetables. They will do certain things in certain times, and some things won't get done. They'll get pushed into next week, or they just say, we're not doing that at the moment because our focus is this. Like, you don't get to just pile on and on and on and on and on. Okay. And
I guess one big thing when we're prioritizing is why it's so important as teachers is, you talked about in the private sector, you have like a timetable, you can jiggle stuff around. 80% of our time we can't jiggle around. 80% of our time is set in stone. We need to teach English then and maths then and do our...
you can't drop those.
No, you can't drop them. So when we're saying prioritizing, it's even more important because we have such less time to play with in order to prioritize. And you're absolutely right. I think it's about knowing your contract rights. We said it a million times before, but guys, know them. If you are being asked to do 2 things, and one of them is to reback and do every single display that's in the school corridor, and the other one is to write and prepare for your end of year play, okay? Out of those 2, you could know your contract and be like, to be honest with you, I don't think it's really reasonable to ask me to do either of them. But what most teachers will do, if they know that, they'll go, okay, I understand. Look, both of these, I don't actually have to do them in my contract, but I'm a teacher and this is what most people think. I go, of course I'm going to help out with the school play. Okay, that's really important to me and my kids. That's actually going to have a lasting impact on a lot of them. There'll be children who've waited all year to have this kind of go at doing acting because it's what they love doing. They've gone through all the SATs. Cool, I am going to do that. But do you know what? I'm not going to do the displays.
Yeah.
So knowing your contract, it doesn't mean you have to say no to everything that ever gets asked you ever that's outside of this black and white thing, because that's just not what we do as teachers. But what it does allow you to do is to say no to certain things.
I really love your vendetta against displays.
Oh, I hate them
I want to
so
make
much.
a super cup. If I get the energy at some point, I need to go back through our episodes and listen and find the times where your natural analogy of like some pointless work is a display, because it's always a display. It's really funny.
The problem with there's people always come back to me and they'll be like, they either like agreed or there's some people like, well, it can be useful in sometimes. I'm like, I'm past the point now where I even accept that. I'm like, I know, right? But I don't care. I just hate displays.
Hate doing them. But you know what? It does make me think, though, another sort of point within this is like, work smart as well. Because do you know what? And work within your school policies. Schools have different policies. Like, you might have a school where you have a resource creator.
Right.
And someone's saying to you, you need to get these displays done, turns from a horrible task to, well, hang on, actually, all I need to do that is say to this person, I need these 3 things back to
delegation.
This way, and you can delegate it. You might not work in a school where you can do that. And at that point, if you work in a school where it's like, no, you have to do it, I'd be like, okay, no.
Right.
No, that's not happening. But if I can work smart and still get it done, then obviously
and if it's someone's role to do it,
that's what I mean. Yeah, you don't need to. Sometimes I feel like we're suggesting like put up a stern wall of like, no, I don't have to. You don't have to be difficult for the sake of it. If there's a way of managing that job and getting it done, and it really hasn't cost you much time, obviously just do it. But if there's not, then don't. Basically.
Yeah. So next one, point 2. I guess it's point 3 because my first point was very serious.
1.7.
Okay. Oh gosh, so we're going to lose track of this. The next one, it's kind of linked to what you just said about prioritizing, because this was kind of born from that. Is plan for disruption. And we all know, especially we work in a primary school, but I'm sure it's the same in secondary school. There's always something going on. We've talked about a lot about how boosters for SATs have disrupted things.
Yeah.
But in the summer term, my goodness me, you kind of touched on all the things that can happen in summer term, which I wouldn't change for the world. Things like trips, like you said, sports days, the summer fair, there's transition day in there, there's end of school parties, there's tests that we have to get done, there's long assemblies for big celebrations, there's church visits if you work in a church school.
There's May 31st, we need to go obviously put your hand in your resignation.
But the point being, there's more disruption than ever in summer term.
Yeah.
So just plan for that and get your dates in your diary and work around this. And I think a big thing for me that I really love doing at this point in the year is in September, you can't really think about the whole year. it's almost too long. You can have a really
too many things will change it.
Yeah, exactly. You can have a really vague long-term plan about like maybe books you're going to cover in English and stuff, but you just concentrate on your next term.
Yeah.
We're at the point of the year now where I like to actually think, well, I can really compartmentalize. I've got 12 weeks left, or wherever it might be, or 11 weeks because it's quite a short term. I can really now look ahead. And a big thing that helps me is to know exactly how much planning I've got left. So we'll share planning in our school. So I'll share maths planning with my partner teacher, and we'll also share English planning because we have mixed sets and we go through the same book in the whole year group. So I know what maths I've got to plan for the rest of the year. I know what English I've got to plan for the rest of the year, and I also know what topics in the afternoon I need to do. So for example, I know I've got an RE unit to plan, I think in term 6, and we've got a cooking unit to plan as well. And then you're done. So I'm done. Then we're done at the end of the year. And knowing that, why do you think that might be really beneficial for someone to have?
Well, firstly, it's a finite, manageable time, isn't it? Whereas, like you said, beginning of the year, it's not. Well, it's useful because then you can plan ahead for summer.
Right.
You can literally know your end point.
Yes.
You can think about what you're going to do in the summer. You can think about next year. You can just be organized, right? Is that what you're getting at?
That's it. That's essentially it. It's like, I know I've got this to do. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it now, but it means, okay, actually, if I think about it, I've got X amount of lessons to plan.
Yeah.
I'll do that maths bit of planning here. I'll do that bit of English planning in my PPA at this point. Oh, I know because I planned ahead actually when PPA's changed that week, so I'm going to get it done early.
Yeah.
So just having all this information, because it's such a small amount of time now until the end of the year, I feel like you're in a position where you can be really powerful of what you know.
Definitely.
And what you do.
And just going back to your original point about just planning for disruption in general, right? Just a thought experiment. How many times in your career, particularly earlier on, right, have you spent time mapping out a medium-term plan? Okay, maybe for maths or English or whatever, and you've done day by day in each week, like, I'm going to cover these objectives. And then as the term progresses, you're like, I forgot about the summer fair. Yeah. That's ruined that. I'm going to have to push everything back. Oh, that's messed up my thing because I planned
it's a first aid course as well.
Oh, the first aid course. Oh, and then this, and then and suddenly 6 things have happened that you've not planned for. Yeah. You spent all that time on your medium-term plan. It's completely useless now because 6 lessons have been pushed out.
Do you know what I've done?
The worst thing, I'll just say this, the worst thing is when, in other terms, at least you can generally be like, okay, I'll push it into next term. If you do that in term 6, you generally get to a point where you're stuck. It's like if you've actually planned every single lesson slot and you've really not thought about the disruption that's going to happen, you're going to get to a point where, like, I've actually got to sacrifice lessons now because it's too late. I can't push them into next term.
And you don't cover some of the curriculum.
Yeah, exactly. So you've just got to be really careful, plan for the disruption. What I do now, as like being more experienced, is I leave. Are you going to say this, weren't you? I've just stolen your point. No. When every medium-term plan I do now, for every term, in fact, and more in the summer, I always leave about 3 or 4 lessons genuinely blank. Because I just know something's going to happen that it wasn't even in the diary. I didn't even know about it. Like,
even if it was, you wouldn't know about it.
Yeah, even if it was, I wouldn't know about it. Or someone's forgotten or whatever. Or even a lesson doesn't go very well and you need to do it over 2 days now. And you know you've got that flexibility. So when you're planning your term or the rest of your year, whatever at this point of the year, leave some space, leave some room, leave 4 or 5 lessons completely blank because you will fill them.
Right, stop talking. We need to get through all of these, Hayden. Next one, assessment. So assessment's huge at the end of the year. At the end of the year, you need to give basically your formative assessment and you have your summative assessment. So let's just separate these 2 out very quickly. I'll give you some advice. For summative assessment, we're talking about when children sit tests at the end of the year. Now, depending on what school you're in, there can be huge pressure for SLT to have seen lots of movement and data points going in a certain direction. This can cause a lot of stress on the teacher and it can push teachers to be very tempted to do a little bit of bodging. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you, okay? I personally have never bodged a test, but I absolutely, at the start of my career, felt that pressure to have lots of movement, where it would get me stressed and wound up, and I'd feel like, oh God, I need to drill these children with all of these different things that might come up, and I'd start guessing what will come up, and I'd be like, well, actually, previously we did this, so let's do that again. Oh, last year what came up in the test, that's likely to come up again. And you start to think about how you can boost your scores more than how you can help the kids get better at maths.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Well, you're obviously a very good person because in my first year, I'm completely happy to admit this. I didn't bodge I've never, ever looked at data and changed it. I've never done anything in post. The kids get what they get. But one thing I did do, and I got told off for this in my first year, and it sat with me because I was like, I don't want to get told off. And I've never done it since because I thought, what was I thinking? That was terrible. I knew the test content. So I was in a year 4 class. It wasn't 6. I knew we did the same tests every time. So they'd already been pre-printed. I knew what was in there and I flicked through it like 2 weeks before. And then I made sure in all my lesson starters in those 2 weeks before the test, test, I made sure to cover extremely similar questions.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'd be like, okay, they've done a hexagon with this thing. I'm going to do a pentagon with this thing. It was like so similar, where it's like I've clearly just copied the test question, put it into a PowerPoint, and then we just did those questions along the way. And I thought that's good because I'm not cheating. It's not the actual question. It's just revision. And it's like, but it is though, isn't it? Because in a real test environment, you don't know. Like I've been in year 6 for so long now, I've actually got very used to like we don't see the SATs papers until the second the kids are opening them, doing them. There's not even a possibility of doing that anymore. And I'm like, that should be how it is in all year groups.
Because it's no longer problem solving if the children have had the context.
And then the data's not real. So what we're saying here is don't do that. Don't be. It's so tempting. I succumbed to the pressure.
Break the chain.
Don't do it. And call out other people that do it, because it happens so much in schools.
It happened in our school. Again, there was someone who rubbed out answers in an English comprehension test. Do you know when you can like match things up? So in their comprehension, you can like write words or you can match up answers. It's weird because every single child who did that test in their room got all of the match up questions right.
All the ones where you tick a box.
Weird because they were all like rubbed out. So because they're obviously easier to rub out. And this is talking about a teacher afterwards, after the fact, going back, rubbing out answers and doing them again.
The data was
give the data more.
I remember that so well.
It was skewed.
It was like hilariously. It was so badly off where it was like, you can't even like pretend this is real.
There were children who couldn't read properly.
Getting like greater depth.
Right. So it's just don't do it because break the chain. If you think the person before you has done it, be the honest person, and it can really put a target on your back. So I can see what people can do.
One other obvious thing you can do with that, like just don't be tempted to, is giving marks where they're not deserved. When you're marking papers, you're like, oh, I know what the kid means. If it doesn't fit the mark scheme, don't give them the mark. Genuinely, just be harsh. Be harsh with your marking.
It's good to do. Very quickly, formative assessment then is when the teacher at the end, for example, will sit down for history and we'll say, this child is expected in history. And then we'll do that for all of our class. Then we do it for geography. Then we do it for science. Then
Based
we do it for this. It's all about teacher. Guys, do not spend 10 minutes going through every single history book doing these judgments. Okay? Think back to when you taught them history. Think back to when you spent hours and hours doing marking, and just give them the level that you know they are. Okay? You do not need to go traipsing through books. For 80 to 90% of your children, you will already know where they are. I'll be able to say to you, this person, expected. That person, I remember their work was greater depth. Absolutely fantastic. Don't spend ages with it because it is utterly pointless. And even though someone might sit there and explain to you why it's so important that we really intricately give an assessment for history and each of the different strands and geography and stuff, it just isn't. So it's just not worth your time. And when we're talking about prioritizing earlier, the priority there is cool. Stop doing that. Go and get ready for something else, which is actually important and will actually help the kids out, because this won't.
2 last tips from me on assessment. Number 1, stop inputting data in more than one place. I'm just going to say that. Like we know not to not do this, and we all still do it sometimes. You should not be triple assessing. If you put it in one place, that's good enough for your score. If they want to put it somewhere else, say, okay, cool, here's my spreadsheet, you crack on then. That's not your job to do that. And lastly, don't compare with your last cohort. It's very, very tempting. I know a lot of, in fact, I think most schools, they like to look at the data from the previous cohort, say, oh, your last year 4 class, they got this data, but your year 4 class this year, they're a bit behind, aren't they? Cohorts are completely incomparable. It's so random, because some years it'll be a fantastic for your vanity, because you'll have a better cohort. Nothing to do with you. Sorry, guys, nothing to do with you. They were just a better cohort. And other years, they're way lower. And it's like, oh, now you're just disappointed in yourself. You think you're a rubbish teacher. It's literally nothing to do with you. Please stop comparing with previous cohorts. Only compare the progress data of the actual child. Absolutely. You can look at their data when they're in the year before and see if they're sort of on track for the same place. Don't look at other kids and compare them. What's the point?
No, it's insane.
Stupid.
And that's where the consistency really helps, because if you spend a few years with good results, being the person who says, please don't, no, listen, these kids came up in a really good solid position. Actually, it's not me. That really stands you in good stead, when inevitably you will have children who are just lower, who have still made excellent progress, for you to be like, no, you can't moan at me. Just like I said earlier, don't praise me. Let's just look at the progress, because some SLT still get trapped into, oh, this cohort's a bit lower, aren't they? What are we doing? Like, we're going to do what we do anyway. Why are we comparing? I'm going to help these kids.
I feel bad for the SLT sometimes, because they feel the pressure too. That's them succumbing to that pressure top down of, well, our data last year, our SATs data last year, we got 90% through in maths, and this year we're looking at 70%. What have we done wrong? Literally nothing.
Yes, exactly.
Literally nothing. The kids are just not as intelligent. They're just not there. The cohort is different.
And that's fine. They could have still made progress.
Did they all make the same progress? Yeah, but they didn't make accelerated progress to get to that 90%.
Yeah. Oh well.
Okay.
Cool. It almost becomes resentful that kids do so well.
Yeah.
It's like, God, I got 94% this year. Next year's gonna be awful. What?
Well, just
celebrate things. It's fine. Right. Next one. This is a very short one, and to me, it's really important. It's really important. just because the evenings are getting longer and it's sunny till late and you leave school and it's delightful, it doesn't mean you have to work longer. Okay, it doesn't mean the actual day has not got longer. Don't feel like your work needs to bleed into the evenings anymore. Do you know what? If anything, you should be leaving earlier to go and enjoy it. Enjoy your evening. Plan non-negotiables whilst it's sunny. On Tuesday, I'm doing this at 6. I don't care. I'm doing this at 5. I'm leaving at 4:30. Who cares? And if someone in the school wants to master themselves to make a comment and say how they're staying so late because they're such a good teacher, honestly, I've learned something this week. It's called an Irish goodbye. Do you know what an Irish goodbye is?
Please tell me.
Just leaving without saying anything. So a standard goodbye would be like, oh, see you later. So where are you off to? And you end up having like a 10-minute chat before you actually leave. An Irish goodbye is literally getting up and leaving. and I realised I've been doing an Irish goodbye for all my career.
Oh, that's what you do to me.
Yeah, just get up and leave. And that's what you do at the end of the day. Yeah. If it's 4:15 and you want to leave, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to go and shake hands with anyone and say, good day, I've put in a good day's work, haven't I? You're a professional. You're deciding to leave at 4:15. Stand up, walk out the door, drive home. See you tomorrow.
No, don't even do that. Don't even say see you tomorrow. Just say it in your own head.
Yeah, say it in your head. Just leave. Yeah. It's fine. So my very, very short point here is we don't get much nice weather. We don't get much of the summer. It's not a country where we have this exotic climate all of the time. Just get out early and go and enjoy yourself. Start planning your summer holidays. Look forward to them. Have something to grasp onto. We're going away in a couple of weeks on the bank holiday. Can't wait. It's broken up the year. I'm not doing any work that weekend. And I've planned ahead. And I know that's fine. Well, it's going to work.
My literal next point is very, very similar. I'm still going to keep it as a separate point, which is specifically about planning ahead. Right. So actually, we've talked about prioritizing. I guess it's kind of similar, but plan ahead so that you don't have to work in the summer holidays.
Oh, are you talking about like big end of year jobs?
I'm talking about, okay, you're moving classroom.
Right, okay.
Don't leave it until the last day to think about it. At least think about what you're going to do, because there might be some things you can do on the lead up to it. You might have, the odd 5 minutes. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. The odd 5 minutes, you might start cleaning out your cupboard.
Sure.
I love doing that. I love cleaning out my cupboard as the year comes to an end. And then when the last day's over, my cupboard's completely clear. And I'm like, cool, don't have to do that in the summer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you can start planning your summer holidays and actually plan something for them so you can look forward to it. Give yourself something to look forward to. The summer term is knackering. Like, have something to latch onto. I'm looking forward to our little holiday. Give yourself something as well to look forward to. It doesn't have to be extravagant or expensive. It can be anything. It could be
going to London for the day of your mates. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, next one. It's kind of linked to what you're saying again of little and often. So this one here, I guess the overall point is little and often. But my point here is with report writing. Pace it out. Report writing is a mammoth job. We're not here to talk about whether your school gives you time to do it or not. That's a separate discussion. They should give you some time to do it, in my opinion. But either way, even if they do give you the time, just start pacing it out. Do one a day. Even doing one a day from now, do one child a day. Right? Yeah. That gets you within a month. You've done all your comments for maths children in your class. Easy. Okay. Even if you don't need to complete your reports before the half term. No. I'm not saying don't do any in half term, because some people like to do it in the half term. They've got a day off, they block it off and they just do their work.
Just get them done.
What I'm saying is anything you do, even if it's 4 kids before half term, right? Because you start it off with the best of intentions, that's still 4 kids fewer you've got to do in your half term. Exactly. So just do little and often. And I want to have a very quick mention about what should go into reports.
Go on.
From the top down, you might get told, you need to write 3 paragraphs about their religious education experience, as well as 5 about themselves and 6 about... We can't control that, okay? Yeah. But here's what we can control. Within the confines of what you've been asked to do, just think about what parents actually want to read in a report. Think about the function of a report, okay? A report is something which is physical, that the parents will receive, and it's got two main jobs, in my opinion. One, to to formally let the parents know where the children are at.
Yeah, academically.
Academically. That's exactly what I meant. And to basically have a keepsake for their child long term, so they can look back and see how they were as a person as well.
Like that. Do you know what? That's the biggest one to me, I think.
So that's my point. Yeah. So what I completely agree. I'll let you expand on it in a second. But what I'm saying is this should manifest itself as is for attainment can be a box.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Just maths expected. Writing, working towards. Yeah. Just a box for each thing. And the comment should just be a profile about that child based on you spent a year with them.
Yeah.
Don't start saying if they can do fronted adverbials or not. Don't start saying if they can add on fractions. Completely irrelevant. Yeah. When you're 40 and you're clearing out the loft and you find your old report, the only thing you're going to care about It's just how you were as a person.
Yeah. It's true, because I've done that. I've looked at my old reports and I just want to see what my teachers wrote about me. I don't care if I was good. Like, in fact, I can look at the attainment box. I got an A in this and an effort of 2.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's good to know. I really don't care though, because it's nothing to do with me right now.
Yeah.
But was I funny then? did I make someone laugh?
I love the
Did I have a
idea
podcast?
that you've opened a report to go, was I funny?
Yeah.
Was I funny?
Did the teacher think I had extreme banter? Did they write that in my report? No, they didn't in the 90s. Nothing like that.
Yeah. So next time you sat there and you've given out a form to the kids to harvest data of what clubs they went to, so you can write down what clubs they did in their report. Just think to yourself, is that a good use of my time?
Yeah. Did the parents know it? Did the parents, the ones that picked them up from the club and signed up for it, did they know that their kid went to it and enjoyed
Little
it?
Derek enjoyed football club this year. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I signed him up for it.
Yeah, and I picked him up every single time.
And I took him to the game, and I watched the games.
Yeah. And you weren't there, actually, funny enough. So how do you know that?
Yeah. Oh, I asked Robert to tell me what he did. All right. So your report is what your kid said about something that me and my kid did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He told me at the time.
Also, he had fish fingers for dinner quite a lot, didn't he? Yeah, he told me. You cooked it for him.
Oh,
okay.
God.
Yeah.
Reports.
Just think about what parents actually want to hear.
They do get funny, don't they?
I
They do get
completely
quite pointless. Oh, man. Okay. Next one. I want to talk about, we've skipped past it a little bit, 'cause I think you were trying to move on here, Dylan, but I want to talk about it. Behaviour. Okay. I want to give a little tip here on behaviour, because I know we're running out of time. So let's not talk too much about it. But just be aware, especially if you're newer to teaching, that behaviour does tend to get worse. Right. It does tend to get a little bit worse.
In the summer term, you mean?
In the summer term, okay? And there's a few reasons for that. They're more comfortable with you, you know? Maybe it's very natural. Your expectations have slipped slightly because you've become more comfortable and familiar with them as well. It's very, very normal. And they're leaving your class soon, right? Like, kids know that, especially if you're in year 6, they're leaving the school soon. They really know that. Once they've done transition day and they come back, they're like, hey, we are not going to be here much longer.
And quite often they're not doing English and maths and stuff, are they?
Exactly.
They're like off timetable.
Exactly. It's all chaotic. And it's very tempting as a teacher to let your expectations drop a bit. But you go, okay, little things are changing. I'm going to let my behaviour expectations just drop a little bit, because we're near the end of the year now. They're going to be gone soon anyway. Who cares? I'll just let it drop. My tip is, don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that. Keep your expectations really high and really clear. Reaffirm them more than ever. I'm constantly saying to my kids at the end of the year, like, guys, you're still here though, aren't you? And we've, like, you don't need to then suddenly be disrespectful and we leave on, like, we have a horrible relationship in the last week. Like, why would you do that? We've built up this lovely relationship. Why would you then start being rude? Let's just end this on a high. You know, and I'll say that more than ever at the end of the year, because you've got to keep those expectations up.
And do you know who does care? You, the teacher, who's having to deal with these behaviours. Yeah. So when you think like, who cares? Let them go. No, you're the one dealing with it. Yeah. It's worse for you.
It's ruining your day if you don't. Yeah, exactly. So that was just my quick one there. And keep them moving as well. Summer restlessness is a real thing. Seriously, I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. It's the summer. So I don't know what it is about summer restlessness.
It's just about summer. I just don't know.
But it's real. Like, you probably are going to have to get them moving more. And realistically, get them outside.
Play it. Woo! Play the little jingle. There it is. I've been waiting this whole entire... Right, okay. Anyone who's thinking, why is a jingle just played? Yeah. I knew when we were doing something about summertime and how to survive it. I knew, because you've said it 58 times before, that at some point going out your mouth would be, get him outside.
It's true.
Take him outside in the sun.
Yeah, but it's because it's true, Dylan. Get him outside. It's nice. Plan a lesson out there. Get him on the field, or just finish a lesson early and go outside for 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely crap, man.
Thanks for that. You ruined me there.
Right, I'm sorry.
That predictable.
Actually played the big jingle. Okay, here we go. Last few, we're going to whiz through these. Okay? All right, go on then. So, this is linked to an assessment we just said before. Yeah. We are very close to the end of the year. You are not going to move the needle much. Do not feel like you need to put an extra 15 hours into planning for these really intricate interventions that the children won't know what they're doing otherwise. And you feel,
for the last 2 weeks before the test.
Yeah, listen, don't worry about it. Just fill gaps the best you can and just teach the curriculum, because you still have some curriculum left. Simple as that. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry too much about that. Yeah. Next one, make the most of your time with the class. This is really important to me. This is something that I think I did naturally, even at the start of my career. So you guys might do this anyway, but don't feel so shackled by timetables and, oh gosh, what will someone think of this? If you just happen to think one point that there's a week left, I'm going to play a game with my kids. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. Do you know what? Summer's coming up. They're going to forget half the stuff you do in the last 3 days anyway. They got 6 weeks off.
Exactly. Oh, don't know in the week. Oh, but what if someone walked in? What if someone walked in?
Yeah.
And you're playing the pirate game.
And they see your children loving being at school. Oh, no.
Yeah, honestly. Well, you could have done this for a bit. I've done loads.
I could have done.
I've taught the curriculum. I'm a professional. I'm not going to just not teach them stuff ever. But as a professional, I've just decided, actually, I'm just going to make the most of the time in my class.
Yeah. Okay. It might be nice to leave the year on a high so that they actually want to come back to school in 6 weeks' time. Don't know, just a suggestion.
Exactly. And do you know what you can do, Hayden? You take them outside.
I was like, what? Oh, the alarm's not going off this time.
You've already, that's just for you, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Take them out. That's a great point, Dylan. Take them outside. Go and have a bit of fun on the field.
I just think, look, you're a professional. This is basically what this point is.
Yeah.
You are a professional. Just remember that. So next time you're thinking, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Do I have the authority? The answer is yes, you do.
Yeah.
You are a professional educator who understands the curriculum you need to deliver and where the children need to get to. And if within this confines you've gone, do you know what would be good today? If I just go and do this thing, just go and do it.
Do you know what you're starting to imply here, Dylan? That children aren't just data points, and there is a holistic side to being at a school that isn't just learning maths and English and history and geography and science and that. It's almost as if there's another element to the human psyche that we might be able to foster in a school. Yeah,
it's weird.
I don't know, but just to finish up, because I think that's a really nice point, and I genuinely really, really agree.
Yeah.
Is that this the kids the best you're ever going to know them at this point? Like, this is the nicest part of the year. You've got well-formed relationships with these kids. You've had them all year. Like, you're going to have the nicest, most personalized, actual real times with these kids if you plan them in now. Yeah. Like, an icebreaker on day 1 in September is nothing in comparison to doing a very similar game, maybe even the same game at the end of the year when you all know each other so well. It's lovely. Enjoy it. Yeah. You've earned it. They've earned it. Yeah. It's a great time of year.
And that works for education too. That works for teaching. I feel like I get so much more across to my children now because of that relationship.
Yeah.
Where I can build up that time to then have some nice time with them and play some games and bits like that.
Well, Dylan, that was 9 tips. Yeah. I feel like we need a 10th.
We do need a 10th. This is depending on your outlook. I mean, it's the most important one.
Oh, okay.
Top hint. Okay, right now, start getting your little hints to the children about what chocolate you like.
Yeah.
Hey kids, Mr. Price had 78 cream eggs. Oh, what? That's a weird math question.
That's so funny because I do love cream eggs, specifically 78. Specifically 78.
Maybe don't put into a chat about how much gin you like to drink. Maybe don't put that into a question.
When they ask you what chocolate you like, I like the gin-filled chocolate. You know those ones with like alcohol in them? Get me them. Probably not the best thing to say.
Yeah, but just get them hints out to parents. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a joke. All right.
Of course.
Okay, so anyone who's got this far, I can imagine anyone who's got this far surely understands that was a joke, right?
This far in general with us. I mean, to be honest with you, not even just this episode.
If you have got this far, can you just message us and say your name? Honestly, go to our Instagram.
Prove it.
Because we see it, fair play to you for sitting through that.
Fair play. Let us know if any of the tips were useful, to be honest with you.
Guys, give us a review on Instagram. It's the most important thing, actually. Don't let us know.
On Instagram? I don't want a review on Instagram. Ignore this guy. A review on Spotify, please. And
Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
I'll see you next time.
See ya.